I feel like I know most of you. I've stood at a number of events with Lynn and Rachel, and Veterans Day, and Memorial Day, and Independence Day, and President Roosevelt, and I enjoyed hearing you on Independence Day, and General Knox, I saw you down at Veterans Day, and always enjoy you, sir. I always like seeing your horses. Well, my colt has a buffalo head on the side. I'd love to show you sometime. This is my first meeting to be with you here, and I thank you. My objective to be here with you is to give you a sit rep on some things that I think are going to be important to you, and then to share a few ideas with you that are on this two-page outline that I hope might turn into an essay, maybe like Thomas Paine, that might inspire some people. I'd like you to think back for just a moment to get you in the frame of mind what I think is important for the next couple of minutes. Remember does everybody know that Raymond Weeks started Veterans Day? Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you a few questions that might put you in the right frame of mind. What percentage of people in Alabama do you think know that? 10%. 10% maybe? All right. 1% maybe? 0.25. You all know that Raymond Weeks came back and said something ought to be happening for veterans, and it's not. He took action. A lot of people supported him, and the rest is history. Now, I say it's history. Yesterday, Bob was a wealth of information, and just yesterday he gave me two things I'd like to draw your attention. One of them was the speech by President Reagan about 1982 that basically said that Raymond Weeks was the driving force behind Veterans Day for America. Now that pretty much solidifies it, doesn't it? The President of the United States probably did pretty good research and said that. Now, he also sent me to a website for the Veterans Administration for the United States that shared the history of Veterans Day. Neither Weeks nor Alabama was mentioned. There's a teacher's guide already there. Now, this got my attention because I'll tell you in a minute about a proposed teacher's guide. There was a long history. There was a slight reference that said something like, after Raymond Weeks started a parade, then it continued with the real meat. Now, does anybody here think that it might be helpful for students in Alabama to know that history? Yes. Does everybody know that there are 25 values in Alabama that have been voted into law by legislators and educators that should be taught in our schools? Do you know that? Among them, patriotism, citizenship, courage, loyalty. Is there any connection between those four values and what it means to be a veteran? Absolutely. We have what's called character education. Now, with all that in mind, I want to share with you the book that Bob mentioned. I'm an Alabamian, born in Jefferson County. Went to Shades Valley High School in Homewood, which is about maybe 5 miles from the, quote, birthplace of Veterans Day. I discovered this history by accident. And maybe like Raymond Weeks, I didn't know him, but I felt like Raymond Weeks must have felt. This is not right. Second, somebody ought to do something. You know that feeling when you get that feeling? Well, to give you a one minute or less of context for all this, after 9/11, Colonel Dunn and I looked at each other, what action can we take? He gave a speech to the cadets and cadre at a university ball, and after it was over, be careful, Chris, about what you recommend, because I said, Stretch, we ought to write an article about the connections between preparation for combat as well as corporate and college life in the context of what it means to be a true professional. Well, by 2 years later, that article had turned into 400 pages. I wrote a book called Professionalism Under Stress that's about being a true professional in military and civilian life. And second, a book started inspired by going to Stretch's father's funeral, Lieutenant General Carroll Dunn at Arlington. Started off about the remembrances and roots of honor, but then we decided to turn it into a patriotic guide. And I discovered by accident doing research about Veterans Day when I see my friend Bill Boyd pictured there and what it means. Now I have a brief sit rep if you like what I'm sharing with you so far. I believe as a leadership coach that you have to put systems in place to do the right things, to help good people do the right things automatically, or it might not happen forever. I've written to superintendents of schools in Alabama before and never even gotten a reply. We've been talking about this for 5 or 6 years, and thanks to a friend of mine who's a former superintendent, she arranged for me to go see Dr. Weiss a couple of weeks before he even started office. And I made 2 proposals to him. It went in a notebook like this. Tanya helped me do the cover. And I got feedback from Bob and Nancy and Stretch. And one of the proposals, basically the proposals, he said, I like both of them. One of them I need to think about, the second one we're going to do. As far as I know, for 64 years, you know, this is the 65th anniversary of Veterans Day. Did you get that? As far as I know, for 64 years, that history has not, repeat, not been a part of the curriculum of schools in Alabama and probably in any state in the nation. I've got some good news for you. At the end of the meeting, Dr. Weiss said, we're going to do that. We're going to add the history of the founding of Veterans Day to the state school curriculum. And it was left that he was given a copy of Patriotism in Action, which has a summary history of that founding, pictures of Weeks and Eisenhower, Weeks and Reagan, and a little bit about the founding that a teacher could use.
Hey, Glenn's a picture of me, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. Glenn's on the cover, by the way. He is signing copies for $150 per copy.
He'll sign that for you.
Is that good news to anybody? If you follow the train of thought here, there are a number of schools that do programs that feature veterans, right? But you said 1%, 10% may know that history. If this is done right, whether it's 10 minutes a year for every school, or maybe it's just that one class that they choose to teach the history, we are relatively ensured that 100% of the graduates of Alabama high schools will know that history. Isn't that a victory? Now, Veterans Day is a wonderful history of remembering and honoring veterans. My guess is that veterans are going to like it more, that more students will understand what they do and why. Now, that's step one. Mission accomplished. We got permission, they're going to do it, we turned over the history. Now there's a second opportunity. Thanks to Bob, we're going to have a meeting Tuesday with a couple of leaders of the veterans groups to start looking at this summary that you have and a couple of other ideas. So here are a couple of crazy ideas for you to think about and take back and see if you like it. Let me know if you like it or not, because we're at a point of deciding whether or not we're done or whether or not we're going to take it to the next level. If you notice on page 2 of your handout, you'll see there's some ideas there. They're going to might take professional help, might take funding, might take a couple of other things to go beyond item number 1. There's a possibility, while the timing is right, in the 65th anniversary of Veterans Day and starting here in Birmingham, in Birmingham, Central Alabama, to go through the Weeks Family Archives, which they have not done, but they've offered to let us do that with them, as well as the Veterans Day files, about pulling out what might be archival and what may be administrative, to pull out the best of the best to update the history, put it in the book, make it available online to teachers all over the state of Alabama, and maybe we ought to educate the folks who've got the websites for Veterans Affairs, education, so that within a year or two we're ready to have done this in Alabama and then, if you will, go national for the United States. Now, I want to offer you, I want you to think about something. Right now, Alabama is known for the best in America at one thing. Football. We're good at a lot of other things, but there's one thing we're the best at. If you can think of something else, let me know. This is a chance to not only do the right thing, teach the state natural history, but maybe there's one more thing that we could do. Would anybody sort of feel a little excited about the possibility of being known as number 1 in America at one more thing? We are known for the founding of Veterans Day in America. We are a center history and meaning of Veterans Day in America, if we want to go that far, and of teaching character education values. By law in Alabama, when it comes to patriotism, courage, citizenship, I think you guys know something about that here. And we could brand the Birmingham area and the state as a top 5 destination in America for people who are interested in attending Veterans Day and other patriotic events. Now, Johnny and Chris, do you think maybe we could probably put something extra on if we could communicate that to people who don't know around the nation? If it's 10% here, what is it around the country? That maybe, along with Boston, Philadelphia, New York, and Washington, D.C., you add Birmingham to the list. And then when Veterans Day event planners are organizing what they're going to do, maybe they want to come here at least every 5 years, maybe. And maybe during that week they want to come to the activities for Veterans Day, and they want to come down to the American Village, and maybe we get educators from around the United States who are interested in this history and meaning of Veterans Day connected to character education values. We might find a place or two willing to put on an educational event for educators around the nation. For all of a sudden, I think within 3 years, if we're smart, we have the potential to be the best in America at a second thing. Does that appeal to anybody here besides me?
You're here.
Okay. So, with Bob's help, we're at a place of making decisions. We've accomplished one thing. It's going to be taught, we give them material. And if we can celebrate that, if that's all that happens. But now we're going to look at some leaders and see if we can't find some programmatic funding if he wants to step up so that on November 11th, we have a new paradigm for the next generation. We stand on the foundation of remembrance and honor, and we add one more element, education. So that on November 11th, after the 10th is mainly about veterans, on the 11th, it's about getting school kids down there who have perhaps an assignment in school. And now the motivation is from civilians. Honey, we need to go. Susie gets extra credit if she goes down to Veterans Day and learns something to turn in her paper that's due on the 12th or the 13th, right? And all of a sudden we're not only doing something for moms and dads and grandparents and students, I think more veterans will attend because they have a third level of purpose for being there, and that is to educate America's youth about what it means to be a veteran, connected to character education like courage and citizenship and patriotism. So, I think if you wish to look at those 2 pages, that's the beginning of an essay. And today, this is the first speech on this topic. I'm sure it will improve tomorrow. And a plan. So we're at a place. One plan is, in the 65th anniversary, let's start this for the next new generation. And by the 60th anniversary in America, which is in 2 more years, we go national, celebrate that, and we provided the history for all those groups so they'll be aware of Alabama, the history, and the connection. There's probably more, Bob. I know there's more, but I should stop and see if you would like to comment or if somebody would like to ask a question or a comment.
Well, I was just going to say that one of the things that we had a new group take over in National Veterans Day, Jim and Mark this year, and we gave them one of these books, and they didn't even know a lot of it. And Jim made a comment at the banquet that he sure wish he'd had this book. It would have helped him in planning. But there's just so many people who don't know about the rich history in Alabama, and specifically Raymond Weeks. And we have a program every year. We have for the last 6 years at Raymond Weeks Memorial, and people don't even know the memorials are. So I think it's very important. I think we need to take action to help.